Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 6, Pats Nation Nightly. I'm Zach, as always, joined here with Ben. Ben, it's not the evening for you, but how are we doing early in the day for yourself?
It is not. It is 11 a.m. right now in Hawaii on spring break. Beautiful weather. Awesome to be here. But we're excited to talk about the Patriots right now. Whole lot to talk about today. We have pro days. We have draft talk. We have the John Mayo and Robert Kraft, I believe. Both of them talked in Orlando at the owners' meetings. So whole lot to get to. Packed schedule. Where do you want to start?
I believe we're going to start with Miles Bryant going to the Texans.
Awesome. Yeah, so that was a kind of, I don't want to say big move, more of a significant move for the Patriots. Because like the player or not, Miles Bryant played a lot last season. He played in all 17 games. He led the defensive backs with 851 snaps and playing, I believe, around 75% of the total snaps on the defensive side of the football. So, yes, he was a controversial player when he was in the New England. But you're losing someone who was incredibly reliable for you. And now, before you were definitely targeting, you were likely targeting a defensive back in the draft. And now it's pretty certain that in the middle rounds, late rounds of this upcoming draft in May, you would be looking to draft a defensive back for his replacement.
Yeah, Miles Bryant never was, by any means, a cornerback one, which sometimes he had to be, but he was a very solid player for the role that he should have been playing as a cornerback 4 depth piece. Sometimes he would be thrown into a cornerback 1 role, and that's really what made Patriots fans kind of dislike him a lot, which I never understood. But if you give up a touchdown 1-on-1 to CeeDee Lamb, apparently it's your fault because you're not the best cornerback in the NFL. I didn't like the hate towards him. I thought it was kind of pointless, but it had come out, I believe, Sunday or Saturday, that the Patriots were open to bringing back Miles Bryant, but wanted to do so on a contract that reflected a depth piece, more of a no guarantee deal. And then he signs with Houston soon after. The contract, I don't think, has come out yet. It's a 1-year deal, but the money has not been stated. So that'll be interesting to see if he got paid like a real rotational, like, can do it all guy, or if he just got paid like a really as a cornerback 6 maybe, or cornerback 5. I think he's somewhere in between those two in his skill calibers, but it'll be interesting to see the contract details on that.
Yeah. So right now the Patriots definitely have Christian Gonzalez as the CB1. Behind him, you have Alex Austin, Jonathan Jones, Sean Wade, Marco Wilson, Isaiah Borden, who did not play last year, but I am incredibly excited to see how he can translate his time in college to the NFL. He suffered a concussion in training camp. I think it was week 1 last year, and he just never played the whole season. So definitely excited to see how he plays. And then you have Marcus Jones, who was excellent his rookie year, and last year he kind of suffered the injury plague a little bit. He didn't have a lot of playing time last year. I think it was week 2 against Miami where he got injured. That's right? Week 2 he got
It
injured.
was the preseason game against the Packers, I believe, where you're saying Bolden, right?
No, Marcus Jones. Marcus
Oh,
Jones.
my bad.
No, you're good.
Yeah, sometime early.
Yeah, so beginning of the season. And then so when Marcus Jones got hurt, and then Ty Montgomery also got hurt and wasn't playing a lot, Miles Bryant was kind of the guy who, was back there returning punts and returning kicks. Like he was kind of the guy for a little bit. So you're definitely losing someone who is incredibly reliable. Maybe not the top of the top, but he could do it all, Miles Bryant. So he was a former college walk-on. He joined the Patriots in 2020, and every single year since, he has seen his snaps increase. So going to the Texans, probably going to be used more of a rotational piece. Definitely probably did not sign a huge contract 1 year. Maybe some incentives built in there. Maybe like a 1 year, $4 or $5 million contract. I want to say around there. So now the Patriots have just a couple free agents left. They have Ezekiel Elliott, who is kind of looking for that opportunity to have good playing time next year. You saw him. He kind of, when Ramondre Stevenson went down, Ezekiel Elliott was the guy who took over, right? And he proved that, he can be an NFL starting running back.
He still had a little bit left in the tank for sure.
Exactly. That game against Pittsburgh where he had 2 touchdowns and then he played well in Denver. Like he had a good string of 3 or 4 games together. So he's definitely looking for an opportunity. I wouldn't say it's likely for him to come back to New England, but you never know. Then you have offensive tackle Riley Reif and special teamer Cody Davis. So if we're talking about comp picks for next year, I do not think it's likely for the Patriots to get any extra draft picks for any of these 3 free agents they have yet to sign.
Yeah, maybe you can get one for Mac Wilson if he does good enough, or Miles Bryant, maybe like a 6th or a 7th if they do good enough. But also, that would probably get canceled out by Antonio Gibson or another, maybe Jacoby Brissett, somebody like that. So, yeah, I don't think the Patriots are going to have a comp pick. Just going back to Miles Bryant for a second, it's kind of interesting to see him go because it solidifies the belief in my mind that he was just a Belichick guy. That was one of the guys that Belichick just loved having around. And not that that's a bad thing, but it is interesting that he wasn't brought back with this new regime.
Yeah, and it's also going to be interesting. It's not a terrible point, but how many of these guys are going to be labeled Belichick guys or Belichick system? Or how many times? It's just like, I know it's going to happen. Next year, it's going to be 4th and 2, and Gerard Mayo goes for it. And then you get all these tweets saying, well, Bill Belichick wouldn't have done that. Bill Belichick wouldn't have done that. So it's going to be a lot of that next year of just like, you're going to see changes. It's going to be different. You have a complete overhaul of the staff. There's 20 new coaches, assistants, everything. You have a new OC. You have a new DC. You have a first-time head coach, right? So there's going to be a ton of change. And you should expect that things are going to run different in New England next season.
For sure. And speaking of Mayo, moving on a bit, he had his press conference yesterday morning, correct? In Orlando for the coaches meeting. A lot of things that went on there. First of all, he kind of some contradicting statements a bit. kind of talking about how QB is a priority at 3, but we might move back, and a lot of the same that's kind of been spoken on over the last few months after he was named the Patriots' new head coach. Um, he did say, yeah, QB's priority, but if we get offered a bag, I think that was word for word what he said. If we get offered a bag, then we might have to think about moving down. Maybe Minnesota offers you a bag. It's been rumored that they'll be trying to move up. He also talked about how the Patriots have had contract extension talks with Christian Barmore, which gotta love it. He's been the top piece on your defense, and those are just the guys who the Patriots have to keep bringing back and re-signing, showing that they have loyalty to their players, because that wasn't really something that had been happening recently with their top draft picks. I love bringing back Barmore. And then smaller piece, but Mayo said that there would be captain patches this season. He said he believed in that. Again, that was something that you didn't really see in the Belichick era. We just talked about there being a lot of change, and captain patches is not a big thing, but it's just something the players enjoy to be able to go out there and show, like, hey, I'm a leader of my team, and my teammates voted for me to really show that. Talked about Troy Brown. His new role is going to be as a skill developer. I believe that's how he put it, where he's just basically going to be going all around the offense and just working with whoever needs it. Last but not least, I thought this was really interesting. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, Ben. Even though he said, "Oh yeah, QB is a priority at 3," he also said trading down is the guaranteed way to win, which I don't disagree with that. But if trading down is your guaranteed way to win, why aren't you trading down?
Yeah, you're right, because John Mayo said a lot of good things yesterday, and that was one of them. We'll get to after this the reports that Mayo and Kraft aren't exactly on the same page. But first, the Patriots have never been with at this like point in the draft. You know, they've never had pick 3. When Kraft took over in 94, 95, no, the 95 draft when they got Willie McGinnis, that was at number 4, and that was the last pick in the top 5. Obviously they got Drew Bledsoe at number 1, but that was 30 years ago. So I'm all for listening for offers, right? If you can get a huge package like we've been talking about, if you can get 3 first-round picks and maybe another thing, I'm all for it, right? Like, you don't want to be stupid and just say, no matter what, we're drafting a quarterback. Also, like, there might be 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 4 like picks this year, which is unprecedented. You Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and JJ McCarthy now, which is really weird because, a little off topic, the LA Chargers could have their pick between any non-quarterback, which is just crazy to think about at number 5. But I'm all for it, just listening for offers. I also heard him say he had high praise for Drake May yesterday. There's a question on May specifically, and he highlighted his strengths and especially his ability to be mentally and physically tough. So the only thing is, if you take a quarterback at number 3, you have to be 110% certain he's your quarterback for the future, right?
And Mayo touched on that too. He said you have to have a full consensus within the draft room that this is the guy for our future. This is who we want.
Yeah. So when it was given to him, some reporters, sorry for the noise in the background. Someone threw up like, "What if you trade with Minnesota?" He said, "And what if you get the direct package would be a swap of first round picks, additional first rounder, and another first rounder next year." So, like I said, 3 first round picks. And he said, that would be a lot to pass up on, especially if the Patriots got a first rounder for next year. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see. There's been no reported actual trade offers yet, set in stone, but the Patriots have definitely been fielding calls about the number 3 pick.
I thought it was kind of interesting too that Mayo put a bit of an emphasis on getting a future or multiple future first round picks because even though looking at the roster right now, it was pretty obvious, yeah, this is a multi-year rebuild. You're not going to go into next year and be a playoff team or be able to win a playoff game or two. But I thought it was interesting that he looked at, when considering trade offers, he is putting a priority on future first round picks to help keep building out the roster instead of making a push for this year.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, just be 110% certain that's who you want to pick. And like we've been stressing on this show, no one knows how the draft is going to work out between Kraft and Mayo. Kraft said today, was it today? I think it was. Well, I'm lost in time right now. But Robert Kraft said at the
Might have been
in
yesterday
Orlando,
for you.
yesterday for me, whatever it was, that he's gonna have, a little. He didn't say a little say. He said, like I want the Patriots to draft that quarterback in a fan's perspective, right? Mayo said yesterday, or whenever it was, that ownership isn't going to have any say in this decision. So a little bit of, well, who's right? You have
I
Kraft,
don't
you have Mayo, like
I don't think those statements really contradict each other. I think you can have Kraft or whoever it is. I mean, it doesn't even have to be Kraft. It could be anyone in the organization saying, "Yeah, as a fan, I want a quarterback," because who wouldn't? Of course, you want to get a face of the franchise, but that doesn't mean that you're going to step in and say, "Well, Gerard Mayo, Elliott Wolf, you have to take a quarterback or else you're fired." I don't think that those statements contradicted each other from Kraft and Mayo, but I have seen a lot of people argue otherwise, and I don't know. I just don't think that stuff that's being said to the media like that is really all that big of a deal because the it's more complicated behind closed doors.
yeah. And the big thing is like stress the patience. It's been 3-4 years since the Patriots were competing for anything, something. Um, and it's not going to be immediate, right? Gerard Mayo has been stressing, and Elliott Wolf, that we're going to do this the right way. We're going to build through the draft. We're going to sign our players to second-year contracts. And that's what they did this offseason. They drafted guys like Michael Wenu, who their first contract's up, and now they retained him. Like, they are re-signing these guys. Kendrick Bourne, they didn't draft. Hunter Henry, they didn't draft, but they're re-signing these key pieces to build on for the future.
Yeah, you got Jennings and Uche too.
Yep,
And
Jennings.
again, I mean, Mayo also said, going back to his press conference yesterday, he did say, we looked at this year's free agency class and there weren't really a lot of pieces that we wanted to pursue. We were just our biggest priority was re-signing homegrown guys and people have flourished here already. So, and obviously that was seen through the moves that we know of, the re-signings and all of the signings so far being more so depth pieces. But yeah, you're not really going to make too many splash signings in free agency. It's mostly going to be retaining your guys.
Yeah, and they said today, Calvin Ridley, like they really pushed for him, and it wasn't because of the finances. It wasn't because of the money. It was simply because of variables outside of the Patriots' control. You got that tax, whatever. The Massachusetts has a big tax rate that Florida and Tennessee doesn't. And then obviously Kraft is saying his wife, doesn't like the Northeast, wanted to stay close to home, which is like I don't know how
I
much
found
that
that
plays
so
a
funny.
factor, but that was a funny comment. I bet Calvin Ridley's pretty pissed that came out.
Yeah, like the fact that Kraft just went to the to the meeting in Orlando, spoke to the media, and was just like, "Yeah, we wanted Calvin Ridley, but his girlfriend didn't want to come here." Like you never hear that really from any team, just publicly saying like, "Yeah, we wanted this guy, but his girlfriend vetoed the deal." Like I found that hilarious. Other things that Kraft went over in his press conference, I have two or one more that I thought was interesting.
Hmm.
After having such a poor score the last 2 years on the NFLPA report card, the the Crafts will be building a new facility outside of the stadium for the weight rooms, everything that nature. $50 million whole new building, which in previous years, the Patriots weight rooms have always been like inside the Gillette Stadium building, inside, uh, like near the locker room area, all of that. So just making a whole new building, I thought was interesting. He also mentioned how they're going to. The Patriots were one of the only teams who didn't have a daycare system. Kraft wants to fix that. And then again, this doesn't connect super well, but he mentioned how those surveys, that report card, was pulled in week 5 of last year. It wasn't like at the end of the season, it was in week 5, which I didn't know. And I think that's just kind of interesting seeing the grades for Kraft himself and Belichick. They weren't grades based on how the whole season went. It was things that were poor early on in the year. So things like the weight room and the daycare and family meeting space, communal areas, that's not going to change throughout the season. But the coaching and the viewership on owners, that could. And with how poor the season went, I would say it probably got worse. So that's just something that I personally thought was kind of it made me raise my eyes a little bit.
Yeah. Um, and that's just like stuff that's so fixable, and there's really no excuse to not have a daycare option or any of that stuff. And for Kraft to come out and say like I was completely unaware and like just turn a blind eye to everything that was happening. I don't really buy it. Um, there was definitely some knowledge, but even so, like when they did the same thing 2 years ago, every single grade went down for that from like 2 years ago to this year. Like that's just
Yep.
like you definitely do not want to be trending in the backwards direction. He also brought up the Dynasty, or I should say, the media brought up the Dynasty docu series, and Kraft had to respond on it. And he said he was disappointed with how much time was spent on the controversies instead of the Super Bowls and the 21 game win streak and all of the positives. It was more shedding a light on the Deflate Gate and Aaron Hernandez and the Spy Gate and a lot of those like negatives. So little confused because Kraft, has all the power. I don't really know
He
how.
basically made the documentary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't again don't quite understand. But then he also got into like we can't wait to celebrate Bill Belichick whenever he hangs it up and have him retire. Not retire. Sorry, not that. Have him get inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Um, so again, like a lot of people were upset about how Bill Belichick was viewed in the docu series, and rightfully so. Um, I wish it was more even keel with Belichick, Kraft, and Brady, but it was more like Kraft, Brady, Belichick. Um, so
And
again,
there's so many
yeah,
stories that they just did not include that they should have. And you heard that from the players that Devin McCourty and I think it was Rodney Harrison, they were there for hours And really all they had Devin McCourty do was talk for included in the series was talk for like 5 minutes about being in the same draft class as Aaron Hernandez, and talk about like the 2016 election, like two things that really he shouldn't that shouldn't have been like the priority for somebody who had such a storied career. And then Rodney Harrison, again, they interviewed him for hours, and all they had in the show was him saying like, I forget what it was, but it was just like one little line. Um, and then Kraft mentioned that too. He said, "Yeah, we had a lot of key pieces interviewed in there who were there for hours, who had really interesting stories, and it just wasn't included." So I think there was definitely a missed opportunity there, uh, but yeah.
Yeah. So moving on a little bit from kind of the current day, from the latest news to moving a couple days back, the Patriots are hosting wide receiver Javon Baker for a top 30 visit. And before I kind of go into who exactly Javon Baker is, top 30 visits, each team gets 30 prospects who they can pick. Doesn't have to be the top. It can be people who are projected to be undrafted free agents or first round picks. It can be anyone they want. And they bring them into the stadium, and there can be absolutely no physical workout happening. It is solely film watching. It is only like just getting to know the person outside of the actual football. So a lot of times, what will happen is the coaches will have the prospects break down plays. What we do here, what we do here. It's also where medicals happen. They can do an extensive medical background. You know, Caleb Williams refused to do medicals at the combine. So, for example, the Chicago Bears are now gonna have a chance to do medicals for Caleb Williams. So again, the Patriots usually take this a little slow. A lot of teams, like we've been saying, are already up to 10 or 11 reported visits. The Patriots have one. I'm told that will happen in the next few weeks. So when I have more information on the exact date, I will be sure to share. So getting into Javon Baker, he is a wide receiver. He is kind of in that tier 2 to tier 3, low end tier 2 to high end tier 3 type player. Um, he is 22. He started his career with Nick Saban at Alabama. And after 2 seasons, he transferred to UCF, Central Florida. And he didn't really get those opportunities that he wanted at Alabama. So he definitely wanted to play more, hence why he moved to UCF. He played 2 years there with the Knights and appeared in 26 games, catching 108 passes for a little north of 1,900 yards and 12 touchdowns. More importantly, he was named first team All Big 12 last year in 2023. And after his season, he was invited to the Senior Bowl in Mobile and obviously to the Combine. So this is someone whose draft stock started really slow. He wasn't playing a lot at Alabama, and he moved his way up. And even going to that smaller school, he had great production. He's 6'1", 202 pounds, performed really well at the Combine. He ran well. He was in the 4.5s a little bit. And I'm just reading my scouting report on him that I have. He uses his body size to maximize his potential. I'm going straight from the notes here. Uses his body size well to maximize his potential. He has great lateral explosion and above average route running. Would like to see him work through contact and become more physical. And definitely someone who is an X but has a decent route tree for being that 6'1" receiver. So again, nice player. Could probably see him getting drafted anywhere between the second round to the fifth round, depending on how many receivers you actually see go off the board in the first round. But definitely some exciting news regarding that.
I think it's an interesting choice to bring him in for a top 30 visit. And obviously you can bring in, you're not limited to just like 5 guys. You can bring in 30 different players, but he's probably not really good enough to take at pick 34. And assuming you go receiver there, you're probably going to go tackle at 68, and he's probably too good that he won't be on the board at 103. So, unless maybe they're planning on taking a tackle with 34 and then waiting until 68 for receiver, I'm not sure if it's maybe the best usage of a top 30 visit just because you're not in a great position to get him. But if you like the player, if you like him enough, then there's really no such thing as reaching on him. It's interesting to see, and I wonder if maybe this is a implication that they might be looking at a left tackle at 34 rather than a receiver.
Yeah, and looking through it through another lens, it's like you might not necessarily really want to take Javon Baker, but maybe his insight helps you when you have a top 30 visit with the Xavier Legette or Brendan Rice. Something that he shares that is like it just helps you build on future visits as well. So I wouldn't look at it as set in stone. Javon Baker, New England Patriot, 2024, no matter what. That's definitely not the case. However, last season I think was I want to say 6 of the players who were drafted by the Patriots took top 30 visits with them. So it's usually an indication that a team is interested, right? And most of these visits happen when the Patriots or when a team doesn't have as much time or information as they want on a specific player. So if a player didn't test at the combine, if he's been injured, if the Patriots could only send 1 or 2 scouts to the pro days, this is an opportunity again for this player to visit with the Patriots. So although throwing it out there, although Michael Penix hasn't met with the Patriots at all, I would be really surprised if he doesn't take a top 30 visit with the Patriots. Just because they're not going to be able to go to his pro day, right? They didn't meet with him at the combine. And it's just good. Like, what if you trade out of that pick? You still need a quarterback. You can't, even if you want to start Jacoby Brissett week 1, you just can't not have a rookie quarterback on your roster, right? You have to have a young quarterback to build around. And I'm not saying that's Penix or not, but I would like the team to actually meet with those top 5 quarterbacks, as we've been mentioning, over and over again.
Yeah, and with Penix, I really wish that somebody had asked Gerard Mayo about that in his Orlando press conference. Just hearing the rationale as to why they decided not to meet with Michael Penix, as far as we know, it just seems we've talked about it a lot, but it's a questionable decision, and I believe Mayo also said in his press conference, we looking at the QBs, we believe there's I think he said 5 capable starters, like 5 capable guys who can be who can play QB at the next level. So assuming that you're going with the top 4 of Caleb, May, Daniels, McCarthy, do you think they've met with Nix and they haven't met with Penix. They didn't meet with Nix?
No, they did. I'm just shaking your head.
Yeah.
I personally don't think Nix is better. Keep going. Sorry.
No, I agree. I think Penix is way better. But if he thinks there's 5 capable starters and they haven't spoken with Penix at all, then maybe they have Nix above Penix. And they've even spoken with guys like Rattler. Maybe they have Rattler over Penix, who Rattler also will probably go day 2. The NFL is higher on him than most of the media is. Not day 2, round 2, excuse me. But yeah, maybe the 5 capable starters doesn't include Michael Penix. I would hope it does because he is a very good football player, and he should be priority number 1 if the Patriots trade down. But yeah, that just kind of uh, I thought that that was an interesting comment to go hand in hand with the fact that the Patriots haven't spoken with him at all.
Yeah, you named it. Spencer Rattler's a guy that I don't think's getting out of round three. He might get out of round two just because if you don't take a quarterback in round one, like it's you don't usually see quarterbacks taken in the second round. It's usually first round, and then there's a little bit of a break, right? No one wants to take that quarterback, and then you usually start seeing quarterbacks go off the board. But Spencer Rattler is a guy that can play like quarterback in the NFL. He is a capable guy. And by the way, so is Michael Pratt, who is working out at Tulane for his pro day today. Not saying, he's going to be a starting quarterback, but he's a good backup option. Someone you could have on the practice squad. If you follow my Twitter, you know how big of an advocate I am, how much I love these pro days that are happening. I'm a huge fan of them. And so here we're kind of transitioning just a little bit to staying with draft talk, but going to the pro days. There's over 11 pro days that happened today. Happening today. I mean, it's still in the morning here, but are happening right now, right? And the Patriots, there's a lot of people, right? But there's only so many places that these people can be. So as reported earlier today, the Patriots will be flying to Baton Rouge, LSU, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to go to LSU tomorrow for their pro day, obviously highlighted by Jaden Daniels and
Neighbors, Brian Thomas,
Brian Thomas, yeah.
and
Um,
Neighbors.
and Neighbors. There's going to be a huge amount of Patriots personnel in Baton Rouge. Gerard Mayo, quarterbacks coach T.C. McCartney, offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. I would expect to see wide receivers coach Tyler Hughes there, although it's not official. And then obviously player personnel Elliott Wolf expected to be there too. So you're sending all these guys to LSU, which means you're not going to have these people at those 11 pro days today. But there are some pro days that the Patriots are represented in today, including Louisville, where running backs coach Taylor Embry is keeping a close eye on two running backs at Louisville, Jordan and Isaac Guerendo. Both of those players are under the radar running backs, a little bit underrated, who will be going in round 6 or 7. They're a day 3 pick. But again, if Zeke goes elsewhere, you have Stevenson, Gibson, Kevin Harris, okay, like he's fine. You need another running back, especially in today's NFL where running backs are getting hurt so often. So I would like to see, again, that's not my first pick. I mentioned last episode I would love Marshawn Lloyd of USC to be a Patriot next season. I just love the way he plays, love the way he runs, attacks the football, the 4-9 yards. But again, it's just a good sign the Patriots are targeting these running backs. They also had scouts at NC State today, at UTEP to watch linebacker Tyrese Knight, especially him. They had scouts at Tulane and scout at Southern Mississippi yesterday. It was Josh Hinch, I think, area scout to watch again running back Frank Gore, obviously the son of future Hall of Famer, maybe, I don't know. Probably.
Should be.
So should be. So Patriots are all over the place. I actually have a map in my room of like pins of like where this guy is.
That's crazy.
Maybe I'll get that out next episode. But
that's
it's
awesome.
Just it's a good time for draft season, right? All these guys who didn't perform well at the combine have one last chance to perform in front of these scouts. So going off of, I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but after today, there's again a ton of pro days tomorrow. Like we said, LSU, Iowa State is one to keep an eye on for Patriots personnel. Pitt, Tennessee, Wake Forest, Tennessee with Joe Milton. I'm not saying, anything about the Patriots and Joe Milton, but again, just interesting to see. They also have, they have a running back, right, Zach? Tennessee,
They
Jalen White,
might. Yeah,
whatever.
maybe. Think so.
LSU, and then you have Wake Forest, like I said, and then on 3/28, the Big 12 is running a pro day, a conference pro day, going
And that
from
goes on. That's like 3 days, right? Or
It is.
it's
Yeah. So I'm looking.
yeah.
I'm just trying to look at the date. So it's Tuesday. So it's Thursday through the weekend. Thursday, Friday,
Hmm.
Saturday. And that there's definitely going to be people there. But also UNC's pro days this week too. I forgot about that. So there is a lot of things happening this week, and
This
keep an eye on all of it.
Yeah, this is a busy week, and it came out uh, earlier today. It was reported that the Patriots were going to meet with Jaden Daniels before his pro day tonight, and then afterwards, I believe it was his agent, tweeted
What?
out saying no team is meeting with Jaden Daniels before the pro day. He's focused on that, but still, it's going to be rescheduled to probably tomorrow night, and that was expected to be a longer meeting. So yeah, you get to go to his pro day, and then probably schedule a top 30 visit. Odds are that would happen, and keep an eye out on. I mean, neighbors. You're not really in neighbors' territory with your picks, but maybe if they trade back with Minnesota, Brian Thomas is a name to keep an eye out for. And or if you trade up from pick 34 into the 25 range, again, Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, a name to keep an eye out for. So a lot going on tomorrow and the rest of the week with UNC Washington on Friday as well, even though it's the same day as UNC, so no real top decision makers will be there. But Washington has a lot of players who are going to be drafted, so keep an eye out for them as well.
Yeah. Like you just mentioned, the Patriots are having these lengthy meetings with these quarterbacks. You got McCarthy, like we said, they talked to them. Obviously, Jake May, Jaden Daniels. So good they're doing all the background research and all of that. Kind of moving on here to a kind of totally different, I want to say, type of news. The hip drop tackle in the NFL got banned today. A
I hate
whole lot of
it.
NFL news. Um,
No fun league.
what?
No fun league.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Um,
It
but yeah. So hip drop tackle, and then also you have coaches can now get another challenge if they win. Like their challenge, they can now receive up to 3 challenges. And I know I'm missing some things, but there's a lot of
it,
NFL.
yeah, and I might be missing some as well because there was like 10 of them. But some of the most important ones, the kicking off is now changed to, I think it's like CFL style.
Oh
Think
yeah, I
I
haven't
think they
actually.
adopted
Yes,
it from the
yes.
CFL, but new kickoff, where um the teams will be lined up like, I think it's on the 35 and the 30. Uh, Basically just completely revamping that, which fine by me. No one's been returning kicks recently. It's not really a super relevant part of the game anymore, so that is a good idea to try to bring that back. Trade deadline got pushed back a week, so instead of being in week 8, it's now in week 9, which again I like it. Maybe that's to pave way for adding an extra week to the regular season too, because the NFL's been pushing for that. And then last of the like really important ones, cut down day, where you have to trim your roster from 90 to 53. Before, if you placed a player on IR, they would be out for the season. now you can place up to two of the players you place on IR can be brought back. So that's another important one. A lot of big rule changes, and I like them all except for the hip drop tackle. That's just I don't understand how you're supposed to play defense anymore. You can't hit someone. You can't tackle them like in the most common way. It's kind of getting ridiculous, and you saw that with the outrage from Patriots players on defense who are, I mean, Anthony Jennings mentioned it. Jawan Bentley tweeted a lot about it, and Jabril Peppers today was, I mean, he probably had 5 tweets within a matter of like 10 minutes just ranting about how bad it is, which it is tough to see. Just it's such a bad rule change, and the entire NFLPA was advocating against changing it, and the NFL didn't care. So I don't like it.
So yeah, a couple points. They do the new they put this out. You know, they care so much about player safety, right? They're making this hip drop tackle illegal, and then you go out today and schedule a Wednesday football game on Christmas. You know, like you can't have it both ways.
They
Also, yeah,
the NFL uses player safety as an excuse to just make offense score more points. The NFL just knows that it's a business. They want to make as much money as possible. I can't blame them for that. But people like offenses. People like seeing points on the board. And the average scores in the NFL in 2020, I think the total average score per game was like 49. This past year is 43 and a half. So there's been less scoring recently. The NFL does not like that because that then doesn't help their numbers as much. So they really use player safety as an excuse for better offense because that's what's going to make them the most money.
yeah. So I think what's gonna happen is you'll see a lot of these flags on hip drop tackles happen in the preseason. I say that because usually what happens if these officials, when they're testing out something new, is they'll attend like specific teams' training camps and they'll look for it and start calling it at training camp. The problem is no teammate is gonna hip drop tackle the like a fellow teammate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the first time these refs are really gonna see this in action is during the preseason, where you will probably see so many flags. It is going to be so frustrating. Everyone is going to be tweeting about it. And then the refs will be like, and then Roger Goodell, whoever's in charge, Tony Vincent, whatever, is going to be, okay, let's make this a little more specific, right? Let's scale back a little bit. And you probably will see a decrease in the so-called hip drop tackling flag penalty, whatever.
I can't wait for a playoff game or for the Super Bowl to just get like blown because somebody tackles another player with a hip drop tackle, and then it gets changed the next season because the NFL realizes how stupid it is. That
Yeah,
also, like, now this doesn't affect the game as much. This doesn't affect like the outcome of the game, but players better not get fined for hip drop tackles. Like,
I mean they will.
if
You
you're,
already know that, though.
that's so stupid. They're just playing defense.
Yeah,
They've been hip drop tackling for 20 years. That's the easiest way to tackle somebody when you're like behind them. And now you're saying, no, you can't do that, or else we're going to take $10,000 out of your paycheck. It's ridiculous. I think that's just it's got to go. They need to ban it, or I guess not ban the rule that banned
yeah.
it. Bring it back.
Ban the ban. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So I think. Do we have any other segments? I mean,
I
unless
believe, unless anyone has anything in the comments, I believe that is all for today. So, yeah, I mean, thank you all for listening. We have just under 250 people in here right now. Do you have something? Or
Yeah, I was just gonna say, did we announce who's gonna be here Friday?
I think we built suspense.
Okay, I
We
like it.
announced it on Twitter.
Okay, great. I
Let
like
me
it.
throw. Yep.
We have, like we said, we have every Friday we are gonna have a different guest, whether that be, a fan, a beat person, just someone you know. Like it's every week, it's gonna be someone you're like, okay, I'd probably follow them. So it's really exciting. This week we have another good guest. Last week we had PGS Nest Andrew join us, and that was a great show. We had a great time. So follow us right here on Twitter and Instagram. And up to the little point thing.
Yep.
And we'll probably announce it the day before. So Thursday, Friday
I
show
think we do it tonight. I think
tonight.
everyone in here, 249 of you, we'll announce it on Twitter or on whatever, on X at, I don't know what time this is for you. What time is it right now for you?
It's 11:45 to 11:50.
All right. So
In the
we'll
morning.
announce it. Yeah, we'll announce it at in like 2 hours at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Ben time. If you're in Hawaii with Ben, then look out for it at 2 p.m. If you're on the East Coast like me, 8 o'clock we'll be announcing who we're going live with this Friday. With that being said,
Yeah.
oh, you got something?
No, I was just gonna say thank you, but you got it.
Yeah, that's me. So that being said, unless we got anything in the comments, thank you all for listening tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. I'm Zach. You can find me on Instagram, pats.today, Twitter, any Patriots today, and Ben is the Patriots beat everywhere. On Instagram, Twitter, he's the pro day guy. So yeah, everybody, thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Ben, you got a long day ahead of you, so
Long day.
you still got a while. Enjoy
Thank
Hawaii.
you guys for
Appreciate
listening,
you all.
and have a good night, everyone.